welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really exciting video for you guys. I'm doing my winter Christmassy book recs, but these books, a lot of them can work for the whole winter season, so I thought it would be a good time to film this because it is getting colder outside. I know, especially for a lot of you guys who live in other states, it's getting snowy, so these are just some fun reads you can read during this whole winter season, some of them being Christmassy and some of them being just more off of vibes. And these are actually my favorite kind of books to read. I feel like a lot of fantasy books feel very wintry to me, and fantasy books are my absolute favorite. So it's so fun to read them during this time of year just because the vibes and the coziness of it is just the absolute best. We are gonna go through all of the books. Some of them I've read, some of them I haven't read and I've just heard about. Some of them I've barely heard about, but they seem or feel, or the synopses feel wintry to me. Grab a drink. I am currently obsessed with these cranberry fizz poppies. They're so good and so Christmassy. So that's what I'm going to be drinking today because I already had my coffee. Delicious. And I think I want to start with the Christmassy books just because I have kind of already talked about them previously on my channel, and so I don't want to be too much of a repeater. So I'm just gonna go through them kind of rapid fire, and then we'll kind of get into the books that I haven't read that I want to this winter season that feel wintry, and then we'll go into the ones that I've read and the ones that I would really recommend. So really quick, we'll go quickly through the Christmas books. So I did just finish The Christmas Tree Farm, and I have to say this is one of my favorite Christmas romances I've ever read. I don't know why. When I saw this, like, I thought it was cute. I thought it'd be giving the vibes, but I also kind of thought it might be a little bit boring just because I feel like this Christmas Tree Farm thing has kind of been repetitive and I've seen a lot of it like everywhere, and I feel like how could you make it different? And not that this was all that different, but for some reason I just feel like the characters I liked a lot more, and I also feel like it was more of a slow burn romance as far as like the build up and everything, because they really didn't start to get together until like that much or whatever it was. And so you got a lot of other stuff and a lot of the town and a lot of the farm, and there's just like a lot more to it than just the romance, which I prefer. Reading a lot of romance books lately, I realized that I prefer plot, which is why I really enjoy fantasy books where romance is more of a subplot or it's like a romantasy. I have been getting more involved in romances and I do enjoy them, but I do find myself more drawn to books that have more other things going on. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 3-star, which for romances is really good for me because I feel like romances are just fun, quick, easy, not a lot to it. There's not a lot you can mess up, but I really enjoyed this one. So 3 stars. This is a great one for the holiday season, for the winter season. You don't even have to be Christmas. It doesn't even really have to be Christmas to like this. It's more of a wintry feel to it for sure. Okay, and then some of these really quickly are the ones from my book haul I did for Christmas winter time. Really quick, Love Light Farms, another one I really want to get to this Christmas season. It reminds me a lot of The Christmas Tree Farm, but this one's a lot more popular, I believe. Again, about a Christmas tree farm. She needs to earn money to save her Christmas tree farm. She enters a social media competition. Again, I feel like this one might have a little bit more plot to it, so I'm kind of excited to see where that goes. This one I'm a little bit nervous about. This is How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. This one definitely seems like it's going to be a little bit more romance heavy, but still really fun. It's a Grinch retelling, which is really intriguing to me. I love The Grinch. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, so I'm really excited to see what this is about. The reason why I'm worried about it is because I feel like romance is going to be a huge plot in this, and it's also kind of thick for a romance book, so I don't like when you don't have a lot going on, it's just romance, and then they're also really long books. So I'm really anxious to start this one, but I also think this is the one I'm going to start next just because I am really intrigued by the whole Grinch concept. And then another one I have is With Love from Cold World. Again, this one feels more wintry, less Christmassy. It's basically about this Christmas cold world amusement park in Orlando, Florida. So Florida. You don't get a lot of snow. It's not very cold, and they have like a cute Christmassy theme park, and the two main characters have a competition to see who can come up with the best idea to get this theme park going. And so kind of like more enemies to lovers. This one seems to have like a more of a plot too, which is exciting. Another one I'm really excited to read is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This one's definitely more Christmassy. It's about two authors, a thriller author and a mystery author, who get invited to this woman's house for a holiday party. This woman is like a famous author, I believe, as well, and she ends up going missing, and so it's kind of like a mystery as well. It's supposed to be like Knives Out meets a holiday rom-com. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun, and I also love the cover on this one. This one is definitely more wintry, less Christmassy. I don't think there's any Christmas involved in this, if I'm not mistaken, but that is The Bear and the Nightingale. Again, I've already talked about this one, but this one is about a Russian family who they tell stories of a creature called Jack Frost. He's like a winter demon, and I don't really know, I forget what else happens in this book. I haven't read it yet, but it is high on my list for this winter season, and it sounds like it's going to be really fun, kind of more like fairy tale-esque, which is really exciting to me. And this next stack are more so books that I have not read but have been on my shelf and definitely feel like I've been saving them for the winter time. So some of those being, let's see, the From Blood and Ash series, based on like the fan art I've seen and the book talk side of this book, it does seem like it's more wintry. I also feel like fantasies are just more wintry in general. They feel really cozy. I feel like there's always some sort of like snowy scene involved somewhere, and this one just seems like it would be right up that alley. I also love the cover of this one. I think this one also just looks wintry. I don't know, don't judge me. I really don't know too much about this book. I believe there's vampires and stuff involved. Based on the little synopsis on the back, it doesn't really tell you much. It basically just tells you that the main character, Poppy, is destined for she is never to be spoken to, never to experience life, never to be touched, never to be looked upon. So basically, I don't even know. Basically, the entire Kingdom Siege is on the Poppy's shoulders, and I don't know. I know very little about this book, but the fan art looks really promising. It gives ACOTAR vibes, but a little bit more adult, I believe. I don't know. Please tell me about this book. I know nothing. I've also been seeing a lot of the Flesh and Fire series. So this is supposedly the prequel to From Blood and Ash. I'm not really sure the recommendation on what to read first. I've heard very mixed reviews, and honestly, I've heard better things about this one. So I don't know if it would be better to do the other series first, just because people like this better and then I won't be disappointed. But also because this one is so hyped, I really want to start with this one because I'm really interested to see what it's all about. They're all very big books from both series, so it's definitely a commitment either way. But this one sounds really good. This one sounds really good to me because I love Throne of Glass, and this main character is also an assassin similar to Throne of Glass, and her one mission, one target is to make the Primal of Death fall in love, become his weakness, and then end him. So she's basically sent to kill this Primal of Death and make him fall in love, and I'm sure that doesn't go quite as planned because they never do. And it just sounds really good. Again, really wintry. I love the covers of these books. I think they are so pretty and so satisfying. So those are two series I really would like to start probably as soon as Christmas is over. Please tell me which ones to start with, whatever you guys think. I need to figure this out because that's why it's taking me so long to read them, is I don't know where to start. These two books, so this is kind of random. Another one I really want to read this winter is Icebreaker. I know I have not read this yet. I feel like everybody has read this book, but I really didn't start getting into romance until recently. I'm kind of mostly a fantasy reader, but this one seems really cute. The reason why I got this book is I went ice skating one time and instantly thought that I could be a professional ice skater. And then I got interested in the books that have to do with ice skating. I don't know. It's just weird. I get into little things like that where I do something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to read a book about this. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I've seen a lot of things about this series. It seems really cute, really fun. They are a little bit long to me for being a little romance book, but the reason why I want to read this in the winter is because it just looks wintry, like hockey, ice skating, very wintry to me. She is a figure skater and he's a hockey player. She is working to become part of the Team USA. She gets a full ride scholarship to the university that she really wants to go to, and he is a hockey player. and they are forced to kind of practice in the same rink. So I'm assuming they are not too happy about that. Probably a little bit of enemies to lovers story here, but it sounds really fun. Just kind of like a good breather in between the fantasy books I want to read this winter. So tell me what you guys think about this book. Another one I've been seeing a lot about that also feels very wintry is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've heard so many things about this recently, and it sounds really, really good. I have slowly been dipping my toes into literary fiction, and I have been thoroughly pleased with it. I used to try to read them a while ago and I would get really bored, but I feel like I'm kind of in the right place now to where I can really appreciate a literary fiction for what it is, even though there's like not always a high stakes or not always crazy things going on. You're kind of just following someone's life a lot of the time. This one sounds really, really good. I think what really draws me to this book is the whole small town aspect of it. Kind of a town where everyone knows everyone. It's kind of like in the middle of nowhere, very rural. And I believe that this is also about hockey, I believe. This is about a junior ice hockey team that is going to compete in the national semifinals. So again, this town is kind of small in the middle of nowhere, and they're kind of getting a little bit more popular because their team is trying to go to the national semifinals for a hockey competition. I've heard a lot of like that this book is pretty like sad, or there's a lot of deeper stuff to it. So I'm really interested to go into this book. I know a lot of people love this and I've rated it 5 stars. And so I'm very interested to read this one. I've also have heard really good things about Frederick Bachman's writing. I have never read any of his books, but I've seen a few people talk about him. He's the author of Anxious People too, which I know is another really popular book, but I just really want to get into this one sooner rather than later. I've had this one on my TBR for probably like 6 months now, and it's just staring at me in the face, but I have been waiting for it to get a little bit colder before I read this. So let me know if you guys have read this one and what you think. Next, we'll get into the good stuff. So the next books I want to talk about are the books I have read. All the fantasy books that I have read that feel very wintry to me, or I've read them during the winter and they were just the perfect vibes. Some of these are going to be really obvious and have talked about, so I'll kind of breeze through some of them. Others I might go into a little more detail, but for the most part I think that most of these books everyone has heard of. And I don't have all fantasy in this stack, but it is mostly fantasy, just to warn you. The first couple, very obvious. My first one I'm going to talk about is Throne of Glass. I absolutely love this series. This is my #1 series. Absolutely love it with my whole heart. I started this series last year and I finished Kingdom of Ash in the winter. So it just feels, Kingdom of Ash especially feels like a wintry book for me, but you need to get through the whole series. I think it is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you can actually finish the whole series in a winter, but maybe you could. I read it a little bit slower. I savored it. I love this series with everything in me. I really want to do a reread this year. This series is just so cozy, so high stakes. Like, this is the series where I just remember wrapping up in a blanket with hot chocolate or tea and just like binging with like snowy ambiance on in the background, because it just feels so cozy and so fun, and you will just get so invested in this. I won't go into too much detail. You know, it's about an assassin who is taken from a prison to compete in some deadly games. We've all heard that before. To become the king's assassin. And that's just the first book. And then from there, it's a completely different story. Things just go completely crazy, but I love this. If you haven't read this yet, I don't know what you're doing. It's just gonna change your life, and I envy anybody who hasn't read it yet, because I would love to reread it for the first time again. And the next one everyone has heard about, ACOTAR. I definitely feel like this is a wintry read. I mean, the first book, the beginning, takes place in the snow, in the village. Like, it's very cold and cozy. I remember when I first picked up this book, I went outside to read and it started snowing, and it was talking about it snowing in the book, and it was a very magical moment. But this is definitely a good wintry series. I almost feel a little more so than Throne of Glass, just because it's got more fun romance in it and it's a smaller book series. It's definitely a good one to pick up if you haven't yet. I'm sure you have, but this definitely feels like a good wintry read. I also, again, want to reread this. I haven't reread this yet since I've read it, and I'm curious to see what I think of it as a reader now, because this is what kind of started me into reading. Next one is my new obsession, you guys. Oh my goodness. I have been seeing this more and more lately. I've heard about this series for a while now, but I feel like it's getting a little bit more popular. And I I had read this first book back, I want to say like January or February of this year, and I was interested, but I wasn't a fan. I wasn't convinced. But I keep seeing things about it, especially because there was a new release. And so I decided to restart the first book and pick it up again. Again, I will tell you, even the second time, I was like, this is a little bit cringy, but I decided to keep going, and I'm so glad I did. Zodiac Academy, I know, if you know, you know. The first book is hard to get through. Like, it's definitely interesting, and I did like aspects of it, but the bullying aspect of this book was really hard for me to get past. It was just felt cringy to me. I felt very bad for the characters. I didn't really like, honestly, I didn't really like any of the characters, which is really hard to continue a book series when you aren't really into a lot of the characters. I feel like the only reason I decided to keep going is because of the teacher Orion. If you know, you know. I decided to keep going, and I am obsessed. Now, the reason I recommend this for winter is because it does take place at a school. So very much like Harry Potter. In fact, I would put Harry Potter on this list too, but very much Harry Potter, you know, school takes place during the winter usually. So this really feels cozy to me and wintry. If you don't know, this is about two twin sisters who live in the human world, and they are just trying to survive day to day. They are very poor. They are in foster situations and all this crazy stuff, and a man comes and talks to them and tells them that they are actually the heirs to the Fey world's throne, and they have this crazy inheritance, and in order to get their inheritance they need to attend Zodiac Academy to learn about their powers and to kind of come in to their own as Fey magical beings. And once they graduate, they will be able to get their throne and their inheritance. Really crazy. I don't even know why you would trust a random man and just go with them, but hey, it's fantasy. And so they end up going with him, and Zodiac Academy is really cool. It's 4 magical elements. You have air, fire, water, and earth. And you usually only get one of those powers. Some people get 2, and those are like really powerful people. But the twin sisters end up having all 4. Each of them have all 4. So they're like really, really powerful. But the problem is because they were gone, their parents were actually killed a long time ago. And since there was no one kind of running the throne, they had these 4 celestial families running the kingdom. 4 guys that are attending Zodiac Academy as well, and they're actually also the heirs, the celestial heirs, and they're to take over if the twins don't. So the twins have the rightful place because their parents were the original rulers, but because they were gone, they didn't know where they went. They put this other families in charge. So these sons of these families are also set to take the throne, and if the sisters don't take the throne, if that makes sense, it's kind of confusing. And so they obviously do not like these twins for that reason. They want the throne. They want to be powerful. They are very powerful. And because they've been around, people are kind of already scared of them and already think of them as the rulers. And so they really bully the girls hard, and they do a lot of horrible things to try to get rid of them and make them go back home, because then they will get the throne. But the girls, coming from nothing and wanting the inheritance, they don't even really want to rule. They just want that inheritance, are really trying to stick it out so that they can get it. And so yeah, it's just kind of crazy. A lot has happening here. There's a lot of like betrayals, and teachers are suspicious. It's really, really interesting. There's also these powerful nymphs, they call them, and they're like the evil they're like aliens. The way they describe them is literally like aliens. Look up a picture of nymphs from Zodiac Academy, you will have nightmares. And they are essentially killing off people. So there's also that mystery aspect. They're trying to find these nymphs, trying to end. It's just crazy. So freaking good. I am so happy that this is a 9, or I think there's like 9 books in the series, because I want to be in this world for as long as possible. Obsessed. Definitely feels wintry, school vibes. I absolutely love this series. This one is Powerless. I know you guys have seen this book everywhere. I absolutely love this book. I know it's kind of a controversy because it is a book that has been done so many times, but I also feel like it is also just so comforting to have the same story repeated in just different fonts. I absolutely love this story, so why not do it 100 times? But yeah, Powerless, I absolutely love this book. I don't love the second one as much. It definitely feels more of a bridge book, and I'm really interested to see how the third one is because it needs to redeem itself. This book was so good. I especially love the romance in this book, and I don't normally say that. I usually don't love romance. Like, I like romance, but I like it to be more of a subplot. I don't want to hear too much about it. I really like politics in books. But this one, the romance felt very sweet to me, and I loved the tension between the enemies and lovers in this story specifically. I am not really a book annotator because I like to more live in the moment. I don't really love to like have to stop what I'm doing, highlight, and tab. Like, I'm just not who I am. But this book, I did end up annotating, and it was like, I didn't even think twice about it. I just was reading stuff in here, the quotes and like the things that he was saying to her, and I was like, I love that. So I like spent the time to like write my thoughts and highlight stuff in here, which I don't normally do. So I absolutely just love Lauren Roberts' writing. I think her writing is super beautiful, and I cannot wait for the next book. But again, this one here, I didn't absolutely love. I liked the beginning of it, but then I feel like the middle was very dragged out. It definitely felt like it was just a book in between something that's gonna happen bigger later. So I'm curious to see what the next book is gonna hold. But this one feels very cozy to me. I absolutely love this book. Anyway, this book is about this town, this world where everyone has powers. Everyone has different powers. Some people have the same powers, but the main girl, Peyton, actually doesn't have powers. She is powerless, which those people who don't have powers end up getting executed. So she really tries to hide the fact that she doesn't have powers, and she pretends she has powers. She pretends she's a mind reader, and she really just kind of guesses or takes clues from people to read their minds. It's really, really cool how she does it and how she describes it. But I think it's every year or so, they have these trials where they kind of put powers to the test, and she ends up getting called to be in these trials, which she's powerless, so kind of crazy, but she ends up going, and there's enemies to lovers. The main guy, the king, or he's like the prince, ends up being also in these trials, and their romance is so cute. I absolutely love the tension between the two. Love this book. On my 24-hour reading challenge, you know, I just read No Exit. This is a thriller book, and I think this is a perfect winter read, especially for Christmas. It does take place during Christmas, but it doesn't really talk about it a lot, so you could read this anytime during the winter. Basically, this woman is driving home to see her mother, who is passing away in Utah, and she goes through the Colorado Rockies to drive home. There's a crazy blizzard, and the roads are getting shut down. She ends up getting stuck at a rest stop with a few other people there, and she notices when she's trying to go outside to get cell service that in a van next to her car there is a little girl locked in a cage, and this is crazy. So she realizes that someone amongst them is kidnapping this little girl, and she doesn't know what they're planning to do with her, and she tries to help her. It's crazy. Really twisty book. The ending I did not predict at all. It was a really fast read, and again, it's completely during a blizzard. It's very snowy, very cold. This is perfect read during the winter. Next, I have another thriller. I actually have two I want to talk about. One of them I don't actually have, but the first one I want to talk about is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This one is super good. I love Lucy Foley's writing. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion. I've seen other booktubers talk about her, and she is not high on their list. I love Lucy Foley. I love how she always does multiple POVs. I think that is so important in a thriller because it kind of creates that unreliable narrator when you're kind of in everyone's heads and you're trying to solve this thriller as well. I just feel like it does unreliable narrator the best. I just love also learning about all these different characters throughout this book. It's so fun. But basically, it's been a while since I read this one. But basically, it's a group of friends who I believe they might go away for the holidays or for New Year's or something like that. It's not really holiday heavy. You don't have to read this during the holidays, but these group of friends go away every year for, I think it's New Year's, I believe, to different locations, different vacation spots. And this year they end up going to like this snowy cabin up in the mountains. And they usually, I believe they usually do like tropical vacation, so it's kind of random. It is a blizzard. They get stuck up there, but they're not planning on leaving, but no one can get up to them. And one of them ends up murdering somebody, and you don't know who it is. Everyone's suspicious of everyone. No one knows what's going on. The police aren't able to get up to them because of the blizzard. So everyone's just kind of walking on eggshells around everyone, and you're in everyone's minds. It's very, very eerie. I love this book. I didn't predict it one bit. It was very twisty, and I definitely do like the wintry aspect in this book as well. Another one I really, really like and I think is really good for the winter is The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. I read this one a couple years ago, and I think about it quite a lot. I actually just reread this last month, and I absolutely love the books. All the books just fell. I absolutely love this book. It is different. I feel it's different, to say the least. It's a YA dystopian book, and I am not a huge fan of YA. I feel like YA books are just really light, which, I mean, it makes sense. They're for young adults. They shouldn't be too heavy, but this one just felt very heavy to me. Very, very heavy. This is about a little town. I don't know if anyone has ever seen The Village. Kind of gives The Village vibes, but this is about a town where men are definitely in charge and they are very strict in all of their traditions and their ways. The young ladies in this town, once they turn 16, they are told that they have magic, and they are sent away into the woods to get rid of their magic for a year so that they can come back and get married, and they will not have this magic anymore. They don't get to pick who they want to marry. The men get to pick their wives. The main girl, Tierney, she doesn't want to be a wife. She wants to go work in the fields and the mines. She just wants to work. She wants to do something else with her life than just be a wife, which that kind of work is very frowned upon, and you only get sent to the workplaces if no one wants to marry you. And so she has been her whole life turning away everyone around her because she doesn't want anyone to marry her. She wants to go do something more with her life and go work. She's completely content with that life. Once they get chosen as wives, they get sent out into the woods for a year to release their magic, and the woods are really scary. Nobody ever talks about going into the grace year. Women that come back from this grace year are just, their light has left their eyes. I think that's the best way to explain it. They are missing fingers, they're missing limbs, they're missing hair. Like, it's just crazy the way these women come back, but nobody ever talks about it. And so the girls are very scared to go into the grace year. And there's also like poachers, they call them, that are out in the woods, that if you are not in your designated areas, these poachers can take you and essentially, yeah, they're poachers. I think you know. But a really powerful book. I definitely recommend every woman to read this book. Everyone to read this book. It was very good, very interesting. Next book I want to talk about, I'll talk about very lightly because I did just read this in my 24-hour vlog, but Quicksilver. I love this cover. I cannot get over it. The more I think about this book, the more I want to give it 5 stars. I can't stop thinking about this. Like, it is one of those fantasy books that I just am like obsessed with. I'm obsessed with the world. I'm obsessed with the characters. I think about this so much since I read it. It definitely feels, again, very wintry. It gives me the same kind of vibes as like ACOTAR Throne of Glass and the feelings that ACOTAR and Throne of Glass gave me. I don't want to go too much into detail about this because, like I said, I did just talk about it, but very cozy, very, very good. Like, it's definitely a good book to read during the winter. I feel like I read it during the perfect time. It's just so cozy, and I absolutely loved this book. I have just a couple more to talk about here. So another one I really want to talk about, I actually haven't finished this book yet. I know, I don't know why I'm recommending it to you when I haven't even read it all yet, but that is When the Moon Hatched. I got 300 pages into this book before I had to take a break, and I also just think I wasn't ready for a big fantasy book yet. But the more I think about this, the more I am kind of obsessed with it. I really need to get back into this. It is very, very large. It's like almost 700 pages. This book is about an assassin who ends up getting caught and rescued by somebody. I don't want to get too much into detail about this, especially because it's been a while since I've read it, and I really want to start it over. I feel like I can't just pick it up from the halfway point anymore. I need to start fresh, but I think this book is so cool. The coolest thing to me about this book is you get a lot of the lore from like the history, and it's really, really cool. The other thing that's really intimidating about this book is it does have a whole glossary that is pages long about different beings, different lore, different gods. Like, it's very, very cool. And this story, I think, is kind of told from some of the gods, but it's definitely a romantasy book. I need to pick this back up. I started this in the summer, and I definitely wasn't a summery read. This is definitely a wintry read. So this is one I'm going to be picking back up as soon as I finish my Zodiac Academy book. Main character in this book is an assassin for a rebellion club, and she just takes orders, she assassinates people, and she moves on. She lives a very simple life. A rival bounty hunter, so another assassin from a different group, ends up capturing her and taking her to the dungeon. She ends up getting rescued by our main male character, and he is, I believe he is one of the kings. So there's like different sections of this world, and they all have a king, and he is one of the kings, and he ends up rescuing her, and they go on an adventure, and it's just, oh, it's so good. Definitely a good one for the winter. I have one more series to talk about, and then we will wrap this up because I am so tired of talking. My throat is already sore. I have talked about this series so many times. This is definitely in my top 5 series of all time, and if not, this is the most like cozy wintry book I've ever read. Just because of the eeriness of it. We have One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. This is just a duology, so there's not a lot to commit to if that's appealing to you. This is a really, really good recommendation. The biggest thing I love about this book is, again, the romance. It's there, but it's not too heavy. You get a lot of plot. And the magic system in this is so cool. I have talked about it so many times. But basically, there are these things called Providence cards, and the cards hold different powers, so you have to have a card to wield that power, which is so cool because not everyone is born with powers. Not certain people have powers. It's you have the card, you have the power. And if you collect all the cards, you are essentially the most powerful, but there's also this mist that is overtaking the town, and it is said that if you collect all the cards, you can get rid of the mist, and the mist is making people sick. It's giving them magic, but not magic from the cards, so they look at it as being frowned upon, and they execute anyone that has this sickness, this magic. So really crazy. I love the adventures they go on, especially in the second book. I feel like the second one is so fast-paced. You get 2 different romances in this book too, if that is appealing to you. My battery's gonna die. So sorry, my camera died. But as I was saying, these are all my Christmas, wintry book recommendations. I love reading during this time of year, so if you have any winter recommendations, please let me know. I am looking for anything, again, anything fantasy, anything cozy. I absolutely love winter reads. So please let me know. If you have read any of these, tell me what you think. Tell me your favorite winter reads from the stack or your own. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys want to see. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for Bookmas. Like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Like and subscribe.